What's going on, everybody? Kenny Bomber's in the building because an article came out that hits on some very interesting talking points when it comes to AEW Fight Forever. I'm talking about things like the career mode, exploding barbed wire deathmatch, the creation suite, and the fact that AEW may in fact be interested in coming up with a follow-up game after this one. So let's get right into it. But first, we just hit 10,000 subscribers. Shout out to each and every one of y'all. The giveaway is scheduled for June 14th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you want to celebrate with me, drop a like on this video. And we can't stop there. We got to keep it going. So if you aren't subscribed to the channel, be sure to smash that subscribe button and let's get to that.
Run, boy, they coming now.
So for this update, we're heading to Raja.com. The real ones know about Raja.com. Let me know if you want in the comment section. So they start off with some more details have surfaced regarding AEW Fight Forever. The game, which is due in stores late June, is expected by gaming insiders to be a business success, largely due to the playability and the multi-part aspect. Now that's some very good news because this is AEW's first game and this is this team's first game working all together because we know they brought in new people to Ukes to actually work on this game as well. They lost Brian Williams early on, so it sounded like it was kind of a gloom and doom story. But being that the game is being looked at as a success by the business insiders, that's going to be big for AEW, and that's going to speak to this point that they're going to make later on in this article. As with any game, there are some internal criticisms, such as the limited creation suite, which is apparently not very expansive. Now, this is something we heard about before. We heard the creation suite was limited. We don't know how limited it is exactly because they haven't shown it to us yet, but it is concerning. It's definitely concerning because with them saying that it's limited, I don't know if we'll have the option to actually fully form the created wrestlers' faces, or are they just going to give us pre-made generic faces? Do we have like nose 1, 2, 3? Pick one of these nose. I said 1, 2, 3. That would be very limited, and I would think that would not be good at all because there are wrestlers missing from this game, obviously. And how do we fix that in wrestling games? We had to create a wrestler and we make those wrestlers that are missing. I think one of the biggest things that keeps these WWE 2K games alive is the creation suite. Because if you look on Twitter, you see everybody creating these beautiful models and everybody goes back to download them. You take them in your game and you can play them by yourself. So I think the creation suite is very important in these games. Hopefully it's not super duper limited. We know it's limited. Maybe there's just 5 or 6 t-shirts. You know what? Whatever. We can kind of work with it. But if the facial structures can't be worked on, that's going to be really tough. Another criticism is the repetitive clothing used with other characters included in the story mode. Now that's something goofy. That won't really bother me too much. If you have like 10 NPCs wearing the same outfits, again, that's goofy, but it's not a deal breaker for me. Whatever. The story mode itself also faced some limitation from the developers, although they did take some input from the actual wrestlers featured in the game. For example, there were many who were involved in the creative aspects of the game that wrapped over a year ago. So I don't know how involved the wrestlers were. I don't know if maybe they said, hey, let's do like mini games where you can work out in between. Let's do things where you can dine in between. Things you can do other than wrestling. Maybe they threw out those ideas, but we know now those are just cutscenes, you know, cutscene, go back to whatever your menu is. So those are very limited, and I think they can get kind of tedious after a while, kind of repetitive. So we'll see how those works. But as far as the story, I think that could actually save the career mode. If the story is good, and we do have those branching paths where because we know we got to beat it 10 times if you want to platinum the game. So they're going to have some type of interesting story, and you know, those branching paths have to all be good. So the career mode, I would say, is one thing that I'm looking forward to jumping into just to seeing exactly what they did in this. And if it's not, you know, the best in this game, if they have a good foundation, we know there may be some good stuff in the next one, and we'll get to that. Now, I love this next one. It's also being reported that there's a funny joke in this game, which is in the exploding barbed wire deathmatch settings, where you can choose 2 options, either to have an enormous explosion like you would expect, or an absolute dud of a firework display, such as the one that infamously played out at the conclusion of AEW Revolution in 2021. Now, if you ask me, this has to be one of, if not the worst moments in AEW history. Just the anticipation of me wondering, how are they going to do this? How are they going to do this? How are they going to pull it off? And to see those fireworks go off and Eddie Kingston come out there, cover Jon Moxley, and he committed to it. He just rolled over in the ring and acted like he was passed out. But at least they tried it. It didn't work, but they tried it. Hopefully they try it again, Get some better pyrotechnic people to make a better explosion, because the explosion wasn't even as bad as Kane's pyro. Let's get to that. But I love the fact that they know it was a disaster and they still put it in the game. Turn a negative into a positive. You love to see it. Next up, it says AEW Fight Forever also has a number of Easter eggs. Now, I heard about these Easter eggs. They're saying that it's a lot of stuff planted in this game that it's going to take a long time for us to find. So I think that's very interesting, and that's something that's good, because things like breaking the Titantron, I wish they didn't show us that. I wish we were able to go up there and just figure it out on our own, because that's something that's very interesting, and I would have been mind blown if I did that on my own. So including size-based characters and weapons. Size-based characters and weapons. When I see side-based characters, I think that's going to give us like a big head mode or something. A throwback to the old days, you know? I don't know. I don't know if I would ever turn that on, but I guess they used to put that in a lot of games, so some people must love it. Not only size-based characters, we'll also get size-based weapons, along with other Easter eggs the developers feel that will be difficult for fans to discover initially. So that's what I was talking about earlier. They got other Easter eggs in here that's going to be hard for us to find, and I think that's going to be fun. A lot of the specific touches to the game were reportedly insisted on by Kenny Omega, who was heavily involved behind the scenes in the creation of the video game. Omega apparently specifically insisted on many of the mini games included in AEW Fight Forever. Now, he does strike me as a Mario Party guy, so I'm not too surprised at that. Maybe he saw the success of things like Fall Guys and, you know, those different type of games, and saw, you know what, that is a way you can pull in a different audience. If somebody's not interested in wrestling games and they see these fun mini games, that could pull them into the game, and you can take them outside of the game and actually play those. I saw somebody in the comment section say that as well, and that made a lot of sense. Now, I think this is the most important part of Kenny Omega's involvement. Omega also reportedly insisted on bringing in Gator, who has worked on previous successful wrestling game. Gator's behind WWF WrestleMania 2000, WWF No Mercy, those great Ultimate Muscle Wrestling games, also Def Jam Vendetta and Def Jam Fight for New York. Not Icon. We're not going to put Def Jam Icon on him. Now, if AEW Fight Forever has the heart of any of those games I just mentioned, we're looking at a big W here. Now, the last thing I want to touch on, as previously reported, the original plan for AEW Fight Forever was for the game to be a one-off release with constant updates and downloadable characters, as opposed to the repeat release. It's worth noting that AEW has retained the rights to the game engine, just in case they change their minds and want to make another game in the future. Now, this tells us a few things. The people who matter are happy with the way this game turned out, because if they weren't, they would not retain the engine. They would go to an EA or another company who said, hey, we can make you a good wrestling game, if they weren't happy with the way this one turned out. So I think for sure we're going to be getting something good in our hands with this. Of course, they got to see how the critics received the game, but the way everything looks right now, it looks like they're going to land in a good spot with this release. This also confirms that this is not going to be the only AEW video game. When they said that we're not going to do a yearly release, a lot of people took it as they're going to do one game and that's it. That is not possible. You cannot keep one game alive for 5 years. I think after 3 years, we will see another game from AEW. And that's just the bomb facts. Now, this last statement just talks about AEW Fight Forever being compatible on the Steam Deck, and a lot of people were making a big deal about it when this was announced, but on those Twitch streams, Evil Uno said he was playing on the Steam Deck, so I thought it was something we already know. But yes, AEW Fight Forever will be compatible on the Steam Deck. Now, I have a Steam Deck, and it was a waste of money if you ask me. But it's good for if you're going on vacation or something and you need to walk around with your game. But that's it for me, everybody. Thank y'all for tuning into this video. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think about these stories. What do you think about the Creation Suite being limited? What do you think about the exploding barbed wire match, and are you ready to officially see it? Let me know if you think they should make a AEW Fight Forever 2 or AEW This Is Awesome. Shout out to each and every one of y'all for 10K. Bomb Squad, let's get to that.